What makes a story feel impossible to capture on film? Is it the sheer scale, the tangled complexity, or ideas so bold they feel like they belong in another dimension? These are the stories branded unfilmable, and they're often the ones that captivate us the most. Some books are too big, some stories are too strange. And some ideas are so wild, they're branded with that one infamous word, unfilmable. But what does unfilmable even mean? And why do certain novels or concepts get slapped with that label only to prove everyone wrong when they finally hit the big screen? Hi, I'm Sean Platt, lifelong storyteller and movie obsessive. Today we're digging into what makes a story unfilmable and how the right filmmaker can turn even the wildest ideas into unforgettable cinema. Because in the right hands, no story is truly unfilmable. The term unfilmable is a badge of honor for some books and a death sentence for others. It usually means one of three things. One, the story is too complex or sprawling. Think epic novels like Dune or Cloud Atlas, where the sheer scope and layers seem impossible to condense into a 2-hour runtime. Not that either of those books could be accused of condensing themselves to a reasonable runtime. Two, the concepts are too abstract. When stories unfold in the mind through inner monologues or fragmented narratives, translating them to visuals feels like turning poetry into math. Books like Infinite Jest or House of Leaves often leave filmmakers scratching their heads. Infinite Jest juggles dozens of characters and storylines, including a tennis academy, an AA group, and a world-altering film so addictive it destroys lives. Its complexity isn't just about plot, it's about the philosophical weight of addiction, entertainment, and human connection. House of Leaves is a labyrinth of shifting perspectives and experimental formatting, including pages of footnotes and text spiraling across the page. Its central premise, a house larger on the inside than the outside, feels like it defies visual representation entirely. 3. The visuals are too bizarre. When a world or character feels too fantastical for practical effects, or even CGI, studios hesitate to take the risk. Like The Mountains of Madness, Guillermo del Toro's ambitious Lovecraftian dream that Hollywood deemed too dark and too expensive. The story features indescribable ancient creatures, like the starfish-shaped elder things and the giant otherworldly shoggoths. Guillermo del Toro envisioned these creatures with practical effects and groundbreaking CGI, but the sheer scope and the story's nihilistic ending made studios balk. When a story's world is too fantastical or surreal, it's like trying to paint a dream with shadows. What ends up on the screen rarely captures the luminous wonder of the original vision. Unfilmable doesn't mean bad. It just means the story challenges us to think differently about how we translate words into images. Some stories are called unfilmable until someone pulls it off. For decades, Dune was Hollywood's white whale. Jodorowsky tried, David Lynch struggled, and Denis Villeneuve finally cracked the code in 2021. His adaptation made the impossible possible. Dune was Hollywood's Mount Everest, looming, impossible, and irresistible to the boldest storytellers. The end result redefined what sci-fi could look like on screen. The book isn't exactly my jam, but when my writing partner Johnny, who took his pseudonym from the House of Leaves character Johnny Truant, convinced me to read Dune about 7 years ago, I understood why the fan base is so rabid and why Hollywood kept calling it impossible to adapt. Or Life of Pi. Ang Lee took a story about a boy, a tiger, and a lifeboat and used film's visual language to transform it into a narrative of aching beauty and existential wonder. People said it couldn't be done, but he proved that great storytelling can thrive in the unlikeliest places. That book didn't just captivate me, it propelled me. Life of Pi's language lingers in my mind as one of the final influences before I became a writer myself. The film depicts survival through a lens of faith, resilience, and the duality of truth and fiction. Through breathtaking visuals and a powerful performance from Suraj Sharma, it turns the simplest premise into a meditation on what it means to believe. Alan Moore famously declared his graphic novel Watchmen unfilmable. That story weaves its non-linear narrative across decades, combining parallel storylines, deep philosophical themes, and dense world-building. The deconstruction of superhero tropes are so tied to the medium of comics, with intricate panel layouts and meta-narratives, that Moore believed no film could do it justice. Zack Snyder's adaptation might not have pleased every fan, but it did bring the complex layered world of the comic to life in a way that was bold, ambitious, and unforgettable. And HBO's Watchmen miniseries could have simply adapted the graphic novel. Instead, Damon Lindelof used its layered storytelling to make a modern masterpiece about race, legacy, and the weight of history with breathtaking relevance. These projects didn't just prove the naysayers wrong, they pushed the boundaries of what storytelling could be, showing that no idea is too big, too strange, or too wild for the screen. And yet, For every Dune, there's a Cats. Why do some adaptations fail to capture the magic of the source material? Oversimplifying the story. When filmmakers strip away too much of what makes the story special, they lose its soul. Like Aragon, a rich fantasy novel flattened into a generic blockbuster. Over-relying on visuals. Style can't replace substance. The Golden Compass is proof that stunning visuals cannot carry a hollow story. Without Pullman's nuanced exploration of faith, free will, and childhood innocence, the film felt hollow, all glitter and no soul, leaving audiences colder than the North. Ignoring the medium's strengths. Some stories are inherently literary. The Great Gatsby's lyrical prose doesn't easily translate to film. Baz Luhrmann's adaptation tried to bridge the gap, but Fitzgerald's novel is as much about tone as it is about story, capturing the beauty and deep melancholy of the Jazz Age. So while Luhrmann leaned into dazzling visuals and a modern soundtrack, it couldn't replicate the quiet tragedy that defines Gatsby's longing for Daisy. Adaptations fail when they lose sight of the story's heart, when they trade depth for spectacle, or forget that cinema is a medium of its own, not a carbon copy machine for books. So what's the secret to adapting the unfilmable? Finding the core. Great adaptations don't just condense a story, they distill it. Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings worked because he found the beating heart of Tolkien's world, friendship, courage, and the hope that even the smallest among us can change everything. Innovating with the medium. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is pure cinematic poetry, using fragmented visuals and haunting music to mirror the fragility of memory and the pain of letting go. The film uses disjointed editing and surreal dreamscapes to mimic the experience of memory itself, disorienting yet deeply emotional. The film captures the fleeting nature of love and regret in a way no other medium could achieve. Taking creative risks. Visionary directors take bold swings. 2001: A Space Odyssey is a masterpiece because Kubrick turned Clarke's hard science fiction into a visual symphony, using long, silent sequences and enigmatic imagery to explore humanity's evolution, artificial intelligence, and the mysteries of our universe. Unfilmable stories are the frontier of filmmaking, the places where imagination meets innovation, and where the rules of storytelling are rewritten. Without the challenge of unfilmable stories, we wouldn't have the bold experiments like Avatar, Mad Max Fury Road, or The Matrix, pushing the boundaries of what film can do. And as viewers, we benefit too. These films make us see the world differently, question our assumptions, and expand our idea of what a movie experience can be. So, is anything truly unfilmable? I don't think so. In the right hands, even the wildest, most abstract stories can be brought to life. It's not about making a perfect replica. It's about capturing the spirit of a story and finding a way to let it shine on screen. Some stories challenge us, frustrate us, or make us think there's no way this could ever work. But those are the stories that often surprise us the most. The best adaptations don't play it safe. They take risks, break boundaries, and remind us that no story is out of reach if the right storyteller is holding the pen or the camera. What's your favorite adaptation of an unfilmable story? Or the one that completely missed the mark? Let me know in the comments. Mine is Stephen King's The Dark Tower. I could not have hated that adaptation more. Plot 147 is the ultimate unfilmable story, not because of its scope, but because of the secrets it hides. Grab your copy now by clicking the link below, and I'll see you again tomorrow.